بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على عبده ورسوله نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن اهتدى بهديه واستنى بسنته إلى يوم الدين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Through our past lessons and sessions, we have talked and elaborated on issues that are connected with fasting and the virtues of fasting in general, the virtues of fasting Ramadan, talked about few hadiths that are connected with Ramadan. We talked about the conditions that should be fulfilled in a person so that fasting would be considered obligatory on his behalf, on him, that is. And we also talked about the things that nullifies one's fasting. And through the previous sessions, I know that there are loads of questions that you have in mind. And I think it is appropriate for us to dedicate today's session and any other coming session, if there's enough time, for answering these questions, providing that I do have the answer. Because it is not acceptable in Islam to answer a question without having the knowledge to do so. It is very normal. It is normal in Islam for a scholar, for a person who has an extra edge of knowledge, to be asked a question and his reply would be, I don't know. I have to check. So don't think that there is a person that has an answer to all your questions. If I do have this knowledge, I will share it with you. If I don't, then unfortunately I would have to say that I don't know the answer. Maybe some other time I would look up for that answer and ask those who are knowledgeable and provide you with the answer. So if we inshallah start, do we have any questions? Yes, please.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. If a Muslim dies during the month of Ramadan, is it a must for his family or relatives to compensate this month for him?
If a person dies during the month of Ramadan, he is not questioned for the remaining of the Ramadan because he's dead. Now, the question comes, is he questioned for the days he did not fast due to his illness or not? Well, if scholars again have different opinions regarding this. If the person dies while being ill and he had to break his fast due to illness, and he dies before being able to make up for those days, then no one is to fast for him. And he is not punished for that, and he is not questioned for that, because he did not do anything, he did not hesitate to make up for that for those days. He was simply unable to fast it. So Allah Azza wa Jal excuses him. And we do not have to pay, we do not have to feed anyone for those days. But the question comes again, if this person became well, and then he stayed for 6 or 7 months, he had the chance to make up for those days, yet he did not. He was lazy, he did not do that, and he died. Do we ask his relatives to make up for those days or not? Again, there is a difference of opinion among scholars. Some of them say, yes, we do. And they take this from a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ was asked. And this person asked him that his mother died with a few days that she vowed to fast, yet she did not fast. In one of the narrations, he said that she died vowing to fast 1 whole month, and she died before fulfilling that vow. So do I fast on her behalf? So the Prophet asked in a different way, just to illustrate and explain this. And he told him, do you think that if your mother had some debts on her, she borrowed some money, would you pay that money back after her death? So the man said, definitely, yes, I would do that. So the Prophet said, ﷺ, then this month she vowed on herself is a debt to Allah Azza wa Jal. You should do that and you should fast on her behalf. This is the first opinion of some scholars that say, yes, we should fast for the days that this ill person who died without making them up, though he had the chance to do that. The second opinion says, no, you may not do that. And they explain by saying that all the deeds that a person does only benefits him. You cannot transfer the good deeds to others. So if a person is dead, then that is it. Nothing reaches him. But this is also a matter of different opinions. We have few hadiths from the Prophet ﷺ that governs this area. We are told that if you perform pilgrimage for a dead person or for a person who is unable to do that, it is accepted. So pilgrimage and umrah is accepted. We are told, as in the first hadith, that if someone has vowed to fast and he could not do that, you may do that for him. We are told that if you pay charity, if you give money to the poor, if you feed people, if you dig a well, on behalf of a dead person, this current deed, good deeds, would reach, the reward would reach this dead person. All of these things we are told that do reach a dead person. So in this sense, they say it does reach the dead person. So the verdict that sits in between, and this sounds to be the most authentic verdict, is that if a person dies with days of Ramadan on him that he did not make up, though he had the chance to do it, but he didn't, you may not fast these days, because Ramadan is obligatory. It's one of the pillars of Islam. He did not do it, don't do it. But if he had made a vow on himself to fast a week or two, a month or two, then this is different. This is not Ramadan. It's something that he had committed on himself voluntarily. Therefore, those who are his loved ones, his relatives, his son, his wife, his father, his brothers, they are all able to compensate by fasting on his behalf. And it should not be appointed to one person. So if somebody died with 1 month, he vowed to fast 1 month and he died, we can split that. Yeah, his brothers each could fast a day or two, his wife could fast a day or two, his children could fast a day or two, and to accumulate that, it would be a whole month, and in that case, it would be accepted. Second question? Yes, sir.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What happens when husband forces his wife to have sex during Ramadan?
This is something that might be serious in the West, and it is serious. Forcing your wife to have sex without her wanting it. I think in the West they could consider it rape. I don't know, but I don't think you're going to be tried for that. You may be tried for abusing your wife, but it's not that complicated in Islam. Not in the sense that it is okay to do it. No, it is not okay. Islam tells you to be the best person to your wife. The Prophet told us, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that the closest people to him in paradise are those best to their wives. So it tells you, do not abuse your wife, do not beat your wife, and then have intercourse with her at the end of the day. This is animal way of living. This is not applicable in Islam. So you are told 100% to be good to your wife, to be kind to her, to do everything in your possession to please her. By this, you're not only pleasing your wife, you're pleasing your Lord, you're pleasing the Almighty, and you are getting your position next to the Prophet ﷺ. Nevertheless, it is different than the West. See, in the West, they have this weird way of treating people. You know, you can end up with your child 7 years old, picking up the phone, dialing 911, saying that my father spanked me for smoking pot. And they would come and take your child and throw him to some social worker and deprive you from your own child, flesh and blood, for spanking him. Okay, what do you expect me to do? Light it up for him? He's smoking pot. He's doing something that is wrong. I have to bring up my kid to be a good man, to be a good Muslim. No, you're not supposed to spank him. And what is the result of that? The result is that you end up with children abusing their parents. And this is not against the law. You end up with children cursing, hitting, talking in a very bad tone to their parents. We don't have this in Islam. On the contrary, we should spank our children. We're ordered to spank our children if they do not comply, if they do not pray when they're 10 years old. But again, spanking them is not killing them. It's not lashing their backs or hanging them on the wall. It is a form of bringing them up in a manlyhood way. So, but to go back again to our subject, a man may force his wife for sex. She's his wife. She could force him for sex if she wants to, no problem. But he could force his wife to sex. The problem is, if it was during the holy month of Ramadan, it's a sin. And if he's fasting, and she's fasting, and he forces her to do that, he will pay the expiation. He will free the slave, or he will fast the 60 days, or he will feed the 60 persons. But what about her? Well, in her case, she was not willing. She was forced to do it. So she has nothing to fear. She has no sin. She does not have to make up for that day because it was not done voluntarily, but she was forced to do it. That means that she has nothing to fear. But she must resist. She must not give in. You know, some do give in after a while, but she must resist till the end, and she must hate it by her heart because she knows that this is a sin and she must not obey her husband in sinning. It's a different story and this we usually make it as a puzzle. And when we ask questions about Ramadan, the question is, when is it permissible for a resident person in the day of Ramadan to have intercourse with his resident wife who is not menstruating? She does not have the monthly period. When is it permissible? One would say, it can't be. No, it can. If the guy comes from traveling and he arrives on the day of Ramadan, he's not obliged to fast, right? And if she had her monthly period in the morning, but by 10 o'clock, she took a total bath and alhamdulillah she is clean and pure, they may have sexual intercourse in the daytime of Ramadan without any problem, without any restrictions, alhamdulillah. And I think this answers your question. Third question, please. Fourth question, fifth question, I don't know, I lost count.
I know an English idiom that reads, to err is human, to forgive divine. So I'd like to ask about the religious ruling concerning the following scenario. What if a man has a sexual intercourse with his wife, but without knowing that there is a severe punishment for this?
Well, we've mentioned previously that there are three conditions. Once they are all of them fulfilled, then if you perform any of the nullifications of fasting, it nullifies your fast. Which is, you have to be knowledgeable that this thing nullifies fasting. You have to be remembering. You did not do it because you forgot. No, you know that you are in your sound mind, you remember it. And you have to be willing. So if you're forced, then it's not something that nullifies your fasting. Now, there's a difference between knowing that this thing nullifies your fasting or not, and between knowing that there is this punishment in this big or this small. So, in the first case, if someone has intercourse with his wife during the day of Ramadan while both of them or one of them is fasting, the verdict is, if he did not know that this nullifies his fasting, then there is no penalty, no sin on him. But this is hypothetical. See, this could be imagined. This can be, if it happens in the West, somebody reverted to Islam like last week, last month, and he's fasting Ramadan, he did not know that. But in the lands of Muslims, this is not acceptable at all. It's not acceptable for a Muslim not to know that these things nullify your fast. So this is a different story. But if someone knows that intercourse in the daytime, on the daytime of Ramadan nullifies your fast, yet he does it. But he claims that he did not know that the punishment was to free a slave or to fast 60 days. God, if I knew that, I wouldn't have done it. I swear to God. I would not have even got close to my wife. I would have kicked her out of the house. But I knew that it nullifies my fasting. But I thought that maybe I would have to make up for that day. Maybe I would feed a person or two. Maybe make 3 or 4 days. But 60 days? That's a lot of time. It still remains. If you did not know that the punishment is so and so, that does not forgive you. You have to pay the price. And you have to pay the price not for one day. See, if somebody has intercourse with his wife the first day of Ramadan, the third day of Ramadan, the fifth day of Ramadan, the 9th day of Ramadan, 4 days, he has to compensate for 4 times. That means he have to do for the first day, fast 2 months, and for the second day, 2 months, and the third day, 2 months, and the fourth day, 2 months. This is different than if he had intercourse in the same day, like 4 or 5 times. If he does this, it's only once. He has to fast for two consecutive months. But if he does it in separate days of Ramadan, man, this guy's in trouble. And he has to do this. You cannot just, throw it behind your back and say, okay, I'll start all over again. Alhamdulillah, God is forgiving. Yes, but He is also He also punishes those who cross the line. So don't do that. And I think this is all the time we have for today's session. And until we meet next time, fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.